Can't escape to the sun this winter? No worries. Today on Bird Notes, we're living vicariously through Mark LaBarr's recent trip to Belize, where, all in the name of research, he tracked down the feathered Vermonters enjoying a little R&R in the sunshine. Hello, Vermont. Well, it's Christmas Eve, and I am personally dreaming of a white Christmas, but that doesn't mean I'm not jealous of Mark getting to visit sunny tropical locales for work. In 2025, I think I spent most of my work excursions in barns, but trust me, I am not complaining. Yep. I love barns. Yep. Nonetheless, Mark, always good to have you here. Welcome back.
Always great to be here, and adjusting still for my trip down to Belize. So
cool. Yes.
It's nice
getting used to the weather again. Little
Vermont,
time lag. Okay.
All that kind of stuff. So, but
you have a little bit of a glow. I see a little bit of a sunshine glow.
It's funny because the sun is so hot down there. I stay covered up most of the time that I'm down there.
Smart.
I hide from it. So. And of course, my focus is going down to see the birds.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so go ahead, make us jealous. Tell us about Belize.
So this trip, I've been to Belize a number of times. I tried to go over the past 3 years. This trip, I was able to go down, and National Audubon had a workshop on regenerative agriculture and bird conservation. This is the group of folks that were there. You might see the jaguar there. We're at Copscombe Basin, which is the
Obviously
jaguar
not
reserve.
A real jaguar,
Not a real jaguar, no.
Okay, convincing.
But this is a group of folks, many from Belize, some from across Central America, that all came together. And Audubon had this workshop, how we can start to do bird conservation in these regenerative agriculture, reclaimed farms.
So does that mean you were more in the interior? Where were you?
Well, we stayed at a place called Silkgrass Farms, which is actually near Dangriga, not far from the coast. But we did manage to get back to Copscombe Basin for a day. That's where that picture was, and saw some great birds, and we had a portion of the conference there, so a little bit of both.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like Mark is working hard to make sure he doesn't tell me he spent a lot of time on a beach. Did you go to the beach?
I saw the beach.
You saw the beach, okay.
But we were so busy that I never actually got into the thing. I'm not a, when
Respect.
I go on vacation, I don't really do beaches. I do birds.
I think that's a great way to vacation. I have to say, even as a girl who grew up on a beach, I'm not a big beach girl.
Not
so although I
anymore.
have been to Belize, I went to Belize on my honeymoon. That was a very long time ago. In fact, we were chatting about it a minute ago. I was trying to remember the names of places. Kind of got some of the names of the places right, but it's a beautiful country, and I'm excited in a minute. We're going to see some of their birds in a minute, but I think, actually first, tell us about, because you did some banding, and you were working with trees.
So I often, when I go down and I work with the Toucan Ridge Ecology and Education Society, short name Trees. And I volunteer, and we do a lot of bird banding. Here we are at the banding table now. This is working with a Miss Abitas Ash. She's on the left there. She's like the guru of banding in Belize. And we did some banding there at Copscombe Basin and also at Trees itself.
And so what is the point of doing the banding? Like, what are you learning when you...
So when we band, we catch the birds and we put a small ring on their leg, which has a unique number.
Break in. How do you catch the birds?
We have these things called mist nets. So they're like big volleyball nets, but it's really fine netting. And so the birds have a tough time seeing into them. They fly into them, and we take them out. I'm a federally licensed bird bander, and so are the folks down in Belize. And we catch both migrants, or birds that breed here and winter there, as well as a lot of resident species.
So you get them out of the nets, you put a little band on them, and then the band has a tracking number?
It has a number on it, and oftentimes we'll re-catch those bands. So here's Scandia. Folks might remember Scandia came up this past summer to Vermont, and she's holding a red-throated tanager, which is a pretty common bird that we catch in the nets. And oftentimes we'll re-catch these birds. No, that's one. That's a
Belizean bird.
Belizean bird.
Okay.
And we'll often re-catch those birds, and we can look at that number and record it. And sometimes we re-catch them from year to year, so we know how faithful they are to their wintering areas. And we run a banding station at the Audubon, which is very similar. It's in the same program as the banding that they do down in Belize.
That's so fascinating. Okay, so did you find some of our Vermont feathered friends hanging out?
Yeah, of course. We had a bunch of them. You know, the big one that I've been working with and we've talked about here with the nano-tagging project is the wood thrush. We caught many of them. Belize is a good spot to see these birds. They winter there. Another one, my favorite bird, one of my favorite birds, the gray catbird.
Didn't you have some of these catbirds in your yard?
I do.
Yeah.
I hear them every spring, and so they also make these big migratory, pushes, go down to Belize or are native to Belize and come north, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that. We think of them as being our Vermont birds, but like really, which home is their true home?
They spend as much time down in Belize as they do up here, so one could think either way.
Yeah, that they come here for the summer.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
More bugs, more space.
More bugs, okay. Yep, there you go, life of a bird.
And then a bird that I don't often see, but is also a migrant, it breeds to the south of Vermont. This is called a worm-eating warbler. And so it's really nice to be able to catch some of these birds that I don't normally cross here in Vermont, but are still migrants.
Yeah, that's like a nice little thrill.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like running into someone in a foreign country where you're like, what are you doing here?
Exactly. And we catch
cool.
ovenbirds and red starts and a whole bunch of birds that are tied to Vermont. And if you remember, our nano-tagging project, which tracked birds in migration, also had wood thrushes from Vermont going to Belize.
Oh,
so
that's pretty great. Okay.
It's a very cool connection.
Well, tell us about some of the local hangers.
So this first one puts our sparrows to shame, kind of. This is an orange.
Because it's so pretty?
Yes, it's an orange-billed sparrow.
Okay.
Many of our sparrows here are brown.
Little brown birds.
Little brown
I know,
birds.
but I love the little brown birds.
And they're very nice. I'm not trying to diss those small birds, but when you catch a sparrow like this, with all these colors on it, it's just fun to see.
It's like turning on the Technicolor.
That is exactly right.
It's the Wizard of Oz scene. Okay, all
right.
right.
And then this next one is a flycatcher, and this was a first for me. This is an eye-ringed flatbill. Some of these native Belizean birds have some pretty interesting names, but you can see this one gets its name from
eye-ring,
that
I get
eye-ring, and
yes.
because it's a flycatcher, it has
such lovely color.
Feathers. This is another good one. I've only seen this one a couple of times. This is the Mayan ant thrush. And this is one, it's a kind of hangs out on the forest floor, low in the canopy, but a really good bird to have to get in the net. Very
exciting, okay.
And then one of the birds that we focus on when I go down at trees, this is the white-collared manakin. So this bird, like its cousin, the red-capped manakin, they make what are called leks, or they clear out a little space in the forest, and then they display around them, making these sounds. And the female chooses her partner by how good he looks and his displays. So
that's cool. Okay, I like a woman who is discerning
and
who creates a ritual too.
You know, when we think about it, all these birds are singing and stuff, but it is the females that really can be the driver in many of these bird populations.
Female power.
And then that last bird, that's the olive-backed euphonia. That's just a nice, colorful, small little bird, which we catch on a regular basis down there.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Well, out of any of those, did you have any favorites?
You know, it's every bird that you catch is a favorite. I'll leave it that way. But I am a fan of the gray catbird because it's a companion of mine in the summer. So
yeah. Well, that's nice. Well, I'm glad it was on vacation with you.
Yes.
Okay, well, so birds aren't the only things that they study at trees.
That's right. So I had a chance to get down. They do bat banding, or not. They don't band the bats, but they catch them in the same way using the same nets.
Okay.
Of course, it's done at night, so the banding table
or
the table looks very different. And while I was down there, we caught, and I'm not a bat person, but we caught a host of different bats that they work with and take measurements. It's a different situation. You have to wear gloves because bees bite, and you have to be vaccinated for rabies and everything like that.
Yes, okay.
So that was just another exciting project that they do at trees.
This is an odd question. Do we have a lot of bats in Vermont?
We have a good number of bats. Some of them have been hit hard, little brown bats, by the white nose syndrome, but nowhere near the number of bats that they have down in the tropics.
Well, how about, because I'm thinking about, I oftentimes will reflect back on California, and California has a lot of bats. Like night falls, and that's something that you're very aware of, is sort of the bats going overhead.
Yeah,
I've had a bat in the house before.
And we have a lot of bats too, just maybe not as many species.
Okay, all right. Well, so I am not going anywhere exotic anytime soon. I am staying here in Vermont for the holidays, for everything. There's some cool stuff happening here in Vermont.
Right.
You want to tell us about the Audubon Christmas bird count?
So we are in the midst of the 126th Audubon Christmas bird count.
That's so cool.
It runs for roughly 2 weeks this time of year. It will go through the first week of January. There's still time if folks want to participate. There's what are called count circles, and there's 20 of them plus 22 in Vermont, and people will count all of the birds within that count circle.
All of the birds, as in just all of the birds, every bird you see counts? You don't have to identify the bird?
Well, you have to identify it.
Oh, okay.
But if you go to a feeder, you count all the chickadees.
Okay.
Or if you see 12 red-tailed hawks during the day, you would count all those red-tailed hawks.
Okay, so it's not, so if you don't have a bit of bird knowledge, this isn't something where I can sign up and just say, I'm going to go and just count everything I see. You do need to be able to have a little skill.
No, you can potentially, sign up and just look at your feeder and count the birds at your feeder.
Okay.
And so if you go to the Audubon website, it'll fill you in on all the opportunities and allow you to connect with the folks that are in charge of each count circle.
Okay, one more question. If you were the level of birder, come myself, who needed to use like your phone for identification purposes, and could you feel like you could be a helpful participant if you were going out and using like a photo finder in order to help you do the identification?
Yes.
Okay.
Or you could join a group, which often happens. People will pile into a car, and you'll be with some expert birders and maybe not so expert birders, and you can get out and you can learn stuff. So there's a number of different ways of doing and identifying the birds so that you can be sure that the numbers and what you're seeing are accurate.
So you can also take this on as your Christmas educational project.
Sure, and originally it was interesting because 126 years ago it used to be folks would go out on Christmas and shoot birds.
Okay.
And then a guy named Frank Chapman decided, well, instead of shooting them, let's just count them.
I love
and
that.
So
That's
the
a nice
Audubon,
transition.
Christmas bird count has been happening now for 126 years.
That's amazing.
It provides a lot of information.
We gotta wrap it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
For scientists.
Yeah.
And it's a great time.
Fantastic.
For folks to get out in the winter.
Okay, well, so don't forget, if you have a bird-related question, be sure you take a photo. Can't do identification without a picture, although I am going to say that Mark has claimed that he can do it without a photo. So here is your Merry Christmas present. You can stump Mark, and that'll be his next challenge when we come back again, all right? So anyway, Mark, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Lovely
and
to
happy
talk
holidays
with you.
To you
Happy
too.
holidays to you too. And as always, Vermont, thank you for learning and exploring with me today. And thanks to the team that makes Across the Fence possible. I'm Amy Finley. This is Across the Fence. Come back and let's learn and explore again tomorrow.